Yeah, sorry about the time switch there. I had some stuff come up. I had to rearrange things, and hopefully everybody can still join us that was planning on joining us in 2 hours time, but we're here now, so we'll go with what we have.
Morning.
Morning.
I woke up 5 minutes ago.
I sent Brian a frantic text thinking he might not be awake yet. So I said, I could move the meeting ahead 2 hours. It's not a problem for me, and it's probably not a problem for the people in Europe. But then I thought, wait, he's a little further west than I'm in.
So I totally missed the meeting notice.
That's all right. It was probably a little later than it should have gone up, but it should have gone up in the news updates category, but it didn't.
If only we had a video meeting category, huh?
It's there.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Not my skill set, apparently.
I think there's enough notifications on all of your devices to drown everybody else's out. So busy spot.
Yeah. Hey, there's Richard. Good morning.
Hello there.
There's a couple more people coming on. The new version is really cool, and that overlap thing is incredible. I was trying to do all that math in my head, the little puzzler on the Telegram group. So
I love those math questions because they're so tricky, but yet so ridiculously complicated. They're simple but complicated, but hard.
Yeah.
Well, they're not complicated. They're not intuitive.
And how many percent of what, right? Yeah, what the percentage you're comparing it to, and all those things. It's backwards design.
Full disclosure is I struggled with that for about an hour. I'm like, man, this has got to be simple.
Yeah, I think everybody is in the same boat. It makes me feel better that you said that it took you an hour, because I consider you to be the genius among us all here. So.
Oh boy, that's not saying much for the group then.
Don't sell yourself short now.
Yeah.
I was going to share my screen a minute. I was just looking at the program. Just one moment. I'm going to share this one. Can we see that?
Yep.
Cool. So I was just looking at it and trying to test it out. This is the newest one. And I noticed when we go to boundary, oh, no, my computer can do all these things at once. Hold on a minute.
Why doesn't the red line follow the boundary?
No, not that. Let's see if we can. Oh yeah, for boundary, where do we find the Google Earth option? I know you can go here and you can add a KML file. I'm missing where we opens up Google Earth. Is that somewhere?
Yeah, go over to the little tools on the left-hand side.
Tools on the left-hand side.
Yeah, I guess that doesn't work, right?
Oh, hold on.
The little wrench and screwdriver.
And Google Earth flags then.
Oh. Oh, where is it? Is it nowhere?
I don't know. I think it might have disappeared. That was the only thing I noticed. So.
Oh, cool.
I haven't played with it much, but that's just one quick thing I noticed.
Oh, I should add that back, shouldn't I?
Yeah,
That
was handy, yeah. And then the other one I noticed too was when we go to, whoops.
Do you see where before you leave that screen?
Yeah.
You see the red line doesn't go all the way. Like that's where you started and stopped the field is where the left side of the tool is, right?
Yes.
you see how the red line doesn't go to the corner?
I do see that.
That's because, like all the other ones, like U-turn and boundary, if you leave a chunk, like see, it works mostly all the way around. Plus, it's a pretty big gap between. But boundary is the only one that doesn't fill in the points in the gap between where you stopped and where you started again. And I need to fix that too.
Ah, okay. Yeah, I just did this in the sim and I buzzed around and pulled that up. So that's probably what happened there.
So did you stop or did you hit stop recording right where it kind of bends and goes away?
Yes. Yeah.
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 Good. One more thing to fix.
Oh.
It's just more processing time, right?
Well, that's just it. Hey, it's just what do you pick, right?
Yeah, because the more points you have, because every frame, it determines if it's inside the boundary. So it uses every point in the boundary.
Mm-hmm.
It also looks for the U-turn. So it calculates every point on the entire U-turn, and it finds out whether or not you've gone through the geofence. So then it does another MI inside the entire geofence as well. So it does all three. So the more points you have and the bigger the field you have, you can see that the speed that the program, or how much slower it goes, is 3 times what it should be.
Okay.
So that's why the geofence has quite large steps, because it's not as critical. But then you get into those little sharp corners, and it's not accurate.
So would it also have an effect on the speed you're driving in the sim as far as creating that geofence?
Actually, the equipment width is kind of how it does it now.
Okay.
Because like there's always that discussion on using small pieces of equipment, like especially on U-turn and that sort of thing. It uses the outside edge of the tool,
right,
find the point. Like if you're going to make a left, if you're going to make a left turn, instead of taking a straight line like your AB line and then following that up to the boundary, what it does is it takes the left side of the tool and then goes up and finds the turn there. And then it goes half a turn over again. Because you can imagine that if you're going to make a left turn, like see where your mouse is now? If you were heading, right where your mouse is on that section, if you were heading that way and you wanted to make a left turn, there may be room at the boundary, but if you go left, like that where your mouse is now, if you can detect the boundary before you get there, right, then you know you can't make a left turn.
Yep.
So that's kind of what, but it all comes down to speed and being able to run on everybody's tablet. And that's always the big consideration. That's why like using like for section control and now that overlap, to be able to just count the pixels and then find out what color they are, man, that's 1,000 times faster than trying to do all that math. Yeah,
for sure.
So like the boundary itself, it uses equipment width to see the distance. Once the boundary is first recorded, then the math manipulates it all to be a certain point depth. If points are too close, it eliminates points. If points are too far apart, then it'll generate points. But I need to do that also for the geofence as well, and then it'll stop doing that. But you can see that if we made it as the point spacing like the boundary, all of a sudden now we have 3 times as many points for the geofence as well. So I don't know. It's a long way around explaining, but it all comes down to how accurate do you want it to be.
Yeah.
It's a hell of a crazy field, by the way.
Yeah, that's just when I drew in the sim, I just buzzed around and left, right. I wouldn't want to drive in that field.
Yeah, but we have fields like that and worse.
Yeah, there's no pond in the middle of that one, so I think it's okay.
Yeah, then we'll have 3 more sloughs in the middle of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll stop sharing that screen for a minute, unless there's something else anybody else wants to point out, or if anybody wants to share their own screen, you can do that too.
Yeah, I'd like to, but I'm on my work and I've got a MacBook, so no agopengps for me now.
Max.
They're like the Harley Davidson of the computer industry.
It is in a way, yeah. So Tramlines is really cool. I think I'm going to start using that now because that's pretty nifty.
You know, me too. Richard, it's all Richard's fault. He schooled me on Tramlines, and I so appreciate it because I never knew at all about the intricacies of trams, and I so appreciate all the patience you have for me, Richard.
Yeah, no problem. I like it very much to help you with it, and for me it's very helpful because now, yeah, as you can, as I told you, our sprayer is 24 meters, so my tramlines are always just in the middle of 2 passes. So with the old tramline function, it's not very it's not useful for me. But this version is astonishing, really great.
Oh, thank you. It was really fun to develop. So in this field, Richard, you would start on the left side, right?
I will definitely start on the left side. Oh my God! Yeah, that's a crazy field.
Yeah, it's a nice one to test, I guess.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah.
So even on this screen, when you hit, can you go back to?
Yeah. Where was
to that touch?
Oh. That good?
You see where it says tool width 1200?
Yes.
Did that default to 0?
Could it?
Oh, you can.
No, it defaulted to that just because that was the.
No, but should it default to 0 instead of?
Yeah, I think it should always be the width of the current
tool
implement setup that you made,
or half of it.
That depends on if you touch the lines where it should be drawn. So it's working good now for me. Only
Right.
the reference line is now created on the inner side. And with the tramline, you have to move it outside the field.
Twice.
That could be like we told before about the 0 pass or the first pass numbering. Lots of fun about that, but
the reference is still 0.
The reference is 0. That's good.
We both win that one.
Yeah. That's true. No, I think the tool with it at the current width setup in your implement setup, that should be good. Not 0.
Yeah. It seems to work out quite accurately. At the top of that curve line, that's where everything starts to fall apart because you get, the more bendy the curve is, the more overlap you get. And then the tram doesn't line up with the outside boundary because the outside tram is calculated directly off the boundary.
Yeah, about that. When you're driving a curve like this, does the software follow the implement or your pivot point? Like if you have a straight implement like mine, like my air seeder, it's just in the lift, but it's the pipes where the seat is coming from about 3 meters behind the pivot point. So when you're driving a curve, it should follow the pivot point of the implement instead of the pivot point of your tractor. I don't know if
But
you understand what I mean.
I understand that. I tried it. I tried doing that so that it follows the pivot point of the implement. But then when you turn around and come the other way, then
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, because if you're driving the right way, your implement flows to the left.
yeah.
And if you go back, then it should flow to the right. And it's the tricky thing.
Yeah, and you can't auto steer off the implement.
Yeah, exactly.
It's tough. Like on our air seeder, we have a toe between tank and then our air seeder.
Yeah.
And our air seeder is 10 meters behind.
Yeah. It's a lot more.
You go around the corner and the front wheel of the tractor almost touches the tool again.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, it's very difficult because because you have the implement not rigid like mine.
Yeah. Well, it's like a high clearance sprayer is the same way. Anytime where the tool is attached or a combine or that sort of thing. It doesn't seem to matter which position you reference off, whether it references off the front wheels, like where the Stanley point is, or the pivot point. When you come back and go the other way, then it's wrong.
Yeah.
It seems to be that if you use the like the Stanley point, the almost the look ahead point, or like where your front steering wheels are, that I have found seems to work the best. It's the least amount of error, but there's always going to be an error because as you turn around, now everything looks backwards.
Yes.
That makes sense, but
yeah, I don't know exactly how you should implement that sort of function. I know it when I worked with the SBG system, and you drive a curve, you can see that the nose from the tractor just doesn't follow the line because it overshoot a little because he really is centering the pivot point of the implement. But yeah, it's also a rigid thing to follow that line, and you had absolutely no overlapping curves.
So it worked pretty well.
Yeah, but I have really no clue. But that's more, I think that every, it's also that every curve is different than each other. If you have a curve like this, you can see my mouse now, but in the top left, every curve, if you're going inside the field, yes, and every, let's say you make the 12 pass or so, the bend should a little less smaller than the outside.
Yeah,
it's almost like contour.
Yes. Yes.
Because if we do
you
this,
could just contour.
Oops.
Yeah, the contour it's doing that. But in the curve, your turn should always be the same for now.
Like an A/B line. So do we need another guidance line where it does that, like an adaptive curve? But then that's just contour, isn't it?
That's a contour thing. I think so too.
Once you've made your first pass with A/B curve, then you can use contour.
Yeah, you can do that. But if you, let's say, I don't know if I told you before. If you have a field with just, let's say, three straight lines, three straight boundaries, and one curve, I will do first, say the straight passes, and then if I almost finish the fields, I will start at the curve one, and then go back, see it back to where the overlap should be from the straight to the curve, in the middle of the, so let's say fifth or sixth pass, and then I have the outer curves. I don't know what do I want to say. Oh yeah, that's good, Wilbert. That's good. Let's can I draw two?
I think you can. You try it.
I don't know. How should I do that? It's a Mac, huh? You know that. Few options. I only have few.
Yeah, I can't draw either.
Okay. How do I do that? I'll share remote control more. Good question.
Can I do that? Can I stay?
Yeah, you can do that. So that's what I'll do. I'll close this. And what you do is you go on the bottom, it should say share, or I guess for you it would be Alt F.
Share. Ta-da. There we go.
The disadvantage of using contours then, you don't have equally spaced lines, and it might, you might get a little more overlap, and then by the time you got to your next tram line, you would be off. Whereas AB curve, it calculates that spacing perfectly every time.
Mm-hmm. And it's the spacing, but it's based off of the GPS location, or I forget now. Which way is it?
It's based off the reference line that you originally made, like the line that Richard just drew. If that's your curve line, and that is that same line, just like an AB line, perfectly spaced all the way across the field. If you try to do that in contour, then there's always more overlap in contour, and there's more wiggly, and the line gets wigglier and wigglier and wigglier as you add more and more air to that contour. Because if the first line you're off 4 centimeters, which isn't much, right? And the next time you drive, you're another 4 centimeters off. Now you're 8 centimeters off.
Yeah.
And then you're 12 or 20, and before you know it, you're a meter off of where you should be.
Yeah.
To get your third tram line,
I want to
way off.
Well, first I will do this side, and then stop here, and then start this side.
Finish up
then
there.
Start there, and then go back inside and fill this one up. That's how I finish my fields. And then do the headlands. This side, this one, and over there. So, but what are we trying to accomplish? Is that I understand that if you doing the curve, every curve is the same line as this one, and if you do the boundary line, the contour line, then it should be the spacing should be equal.
But you kind of can't have both. You can't have.
No, I understand that.
A contour that follows the last one, but yet is spaced properly. That's places at once.
Yeah.
Or at least I don't understand how you could do it.
The earth is still curved.
Yeah. See, as soon as you go around a corner, now you have end up with different radiuses as the curve gets smaller.
Yeah. And that's very difficult to calculate. I understand that absolutely.
You can't make a circle with a square piece of equipment. A round in a square hole concept. Yeah, it's tricky. Well, there's always going to be overlap.
Yep. Unless
you have ideal section control, where every opener has its own section control.
Yeah, then you can.
On 3-meter seating equipment, do you have individual opener section control?
No. We could. I do. I have 4 valves in my seater to make tramlines. They cost about €250 a piece. Let's say $250, and we have 30 thick rows. So it's going to be a very expensive thing to shut off every valve.
See, here in North America, they say, well, if you have 5,000 hectares, that pays for itself.
Well, I have about 20 hectares. So
All of a sudden the math falls apart.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I've been asking this overlap question on Twitter, and I'm finding that my fellow farmers in North America, and I'm going to say they are like I was, that they just don't understand how farming happens in the rest of the world. I'm finding that we are quite unique in North America because we have these big square fields. But almost other than Brazil or Argentina, those fields just don't exist anywhere else in the world. It's smaller plots of land that are curvy and smaller farmers, smaller equipment, and that sort of thing. And we make up like 1% of that. So when it comes to software, there's huge considerations for people like yourself, Richard, yes, and Andreas, and all over Europe, all over Africa, all over South America, and many, many other countries where none of what we do here in North America makes any sense whatsoever. And for me, that's been a huge awakening.
Yes. Yeah, that's the same about the Tramline thing.
Yeah.
I understand that absolutely, because yeah, what you told me is if you don't, if you make tram lines, there should be wheat in your lines instead of wheat or anything else. So there's absolutely no. It doesn't help you.
No.
No.
But for you, it's absolutely critical.
Yeah, but because we have our fields are like 10 hectares, let's say that. We make, let's say, 10 or 12 tram lines in it. If we don't make them, every time we have to. Now we have, of course, agopengps, but before we have to take the land meter and walk into the fields and draw every. Put a sign at every tram, and then start spraying. But for now, there is no. There are tram lines now. We spray about four or 5 times for weed and how do you call it? Sickness in the field. And then fertilize it 2 times or 3 times. So the tram lines are going to use a lot. And that's very helpful.
Right. I guess the next step is to be able to make section control for tram lines.
Yeah, now because you have now, you can insert the tram width. It should be not very difficult to detect that for a section.
It's always difficult.
Yeah, I understand that, but you already made it for the overlap thing. So if you drive overlap, section should be off. That should be the same for tram lining.
But then we have to do overlap over the tram and not over itself. So that's a second overlap.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. And if
so I would have to draw the overlap on the Zoom window. Did the video show how it worked? I think with that gray screen, right? On how overlap works.
Gray screen.
Like the video I made on how overlap works. Did you watch that?
Oh yeah. I see it. Yes. Holy shit.
I guess all it has to do. You're always okay. Let me try to speak English. Do you turn on your air seater?
Yes.
Always the right side of the air seater that makes the tram?
That depends on if you start on the left or the right side of your feet. If you start on the right side, let me count it up. Then you have the first, second, third, fourth. If you start on the right side of your field and go to the left to fill it, then the first tram is the 4th pass. That should be the right side of the seater. If you start on the left side of the field, it's the 1, 2, 3, 4. Then it's the left side of the seater.
So you need to take 3 meters off your sprayer, then you can just seat in the middle.
Yeah.
Or add 3 meters.
Yeah. Yes, that's true. Or buy a 27-meter spray, also an option.
See,
But
so
yeah,
that's the tricky part. You need more check boxes because do you have an odd meter sprayer or do you have an even meter sprayer? Because then detecting that is different, because with an even meter sprayer, you're making 2 passes to make a tram line. As with an odd meter sprayer, you're only making 1 pass.
yes.
Turn both both tram tracks off at once on your seeder, correct?
Yeah, that's true.
And that's pretty much how it's done all over Europe, right?
Well, I have really no clue why they built even with sprayers, because a lot of implement in Europe is built out of 3 meters. So I don't know. I really don't know why my dad bought a 24-meter sprayer, but hey, it's just like that. So yeah,
That's what you have.
coming back to the tram function, it depends on if you start on the left or the right side of the field. Which one should be the first to shut off? Which side?
That's a lot of calculations and a lot of options even before you start. Like for setting an AgOpen GPS.
Yeah, I understand that. Look, I made before I start seeding, I have tested out some things with I split up the sections on my sprayer. The middle one was 1.50 meters, then 25 centimeters, and then or 20 centimeters, and then 60 centimeters to fill. Did I say that right? No, it's 150. Let's say 10 centimeters, 65, 65, and also on the other side. So if you then shut off the second and the fourth section, you can create your tram visual. That's how it's almost in real life. Like the tram veils are at let's say 75 centimeters from the middle of the implement. Then they will shut off 2 rows, and then you have the rest of the implement. But yeah, that's a lot of option thing.
Yeah, for it to work for everyone, that gets complicated. But I guess just having the picture of it must be very helpful.
Well, this I know we started seeding when we don't have the tramline function. We finished it also. I know my dad, he forgot to make a tram because he was busy with something else. You can do it when you drive automatically. But if he had this function, he will never forget it because it's so visual to see. And also the tram is recoloring if you drive over it. So that's very good. It's very helpful. Absolutely. And if it could be automatic, I'm gonna send you an Oscar, but it's not necessary for me. Not.
Well, it's much easier if you have an odd sprayer, bed sprayer.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Andreas, what do you have for a sprayer? I forget.
I have 5 sections, and it's 15 meters.
Yeah, that's odd.
You have an odd sprayer, man. For once, odd is good.
Yes.
How big is yours?
Mine?
Yes.
Well, it's 80 feet. We have 2 of them. One's 120 feet, which is, what is that? 40 meters. And one is
that's even.
So yeah, it's even, but we don't use Tramline. And the other one is the coupe. It's a spray coupe, high clearance, and it's called 80 feet. We're a metric country, but we still use We use acres and feet and liters. It's a mishmash of everything. But it's 80 feet. What is that?
80
20,
feet would be just over 12 meters,
24
meters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I also have even. But then our air seeder is 42 feet. So I can use two air seeders for one sprayer width.
Yeah.
3 air seeders for the other sprayer.
It's amazing.
Yeah, basically the same.
Yeah.
So Richard, do you have a torch?
If I have a torch?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have.
And you can make an odd size sprayer if you need to.
Or if you had a welder.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also have one. Well, I told you I was at the Agrivac factory in Holland here. They make self-propelled sprayers. And they told a nice story about they are selling a lot of sprayers to Australia. And they are 54 meters wide. That's extreme. That's very large. And they told that all the farmers there are, they use 24 meters and then they go to 54 meters. And if they drive about 15, 16, maybe 20 kilometers an hour in the fields, and then about 10 kilometers at a turn. But if you make a turn with a 54 meter sprayer at 10 kilometers an hour, the outside of the boom, that's 27 meters or so, 27 meters, it's going 120 kilometers an hour. That's amazing. Yeah, it's going to kill you.
Then you hit a tree or a power pole.
It's gone. Yeah, it's amazing how they do that. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Nice.
I know, like the John Deere here, they have 120 foot. So what is that? They have 40 meter booms, and they have individual nozzle section control.
Yeah, that's
and
nice.
turn compensated, because they use pulse width modulated nozzles, and they do turn compensation and individual nozzle control.
Agrivac had the same. They just started with developing it. They already have it, and the pulse width is about 100 times a second, so it's extremely fast. And the section control is amazing. Also started with detection of weed, so only spray where there's weeds.
Yeah, those weed seeker booms are incredible. Seeing those videos where it just, that one nozzle turns on just as the weed is coming and just knocks it out. So there's a guy here at the local university who is doing a similar study, and they're spraying blueberry fields, and with the same technology, as far as they just mounted it on an ATV sprayer with camera to detect the weeds, and then it'll spray. But now the next thing is, how do you all of a sudden calculate chemical costs on a field? So now they're trying to go to the next step with taking a drone, mapping the field for weeds, so flying over it, figuring out, okay, there's this many weeds, so it's going to take this much chemical, and then they'll send that map to the sprayer, and then as the sprayer goes through, you know it's going to have enough chemical in it to kill all the weeds, which is just crazy. Flips the math on its head.
Yeah, I told about Brian about the task maps that they can load up in their implement or sprayer or seeder or everything, and then they make pictures with satellites or with drones of the field, and then they can measure the how do you call it? The stick stuff. How do you call it? I don't know.
Nitrogen.
Yeah, nitrogen. Excellent. Thank you. Where to spray more nitrogen and where less. It's amazing. It's about and they can do it about half square meters.
Yeah, Brian already did that on agopengps. He made his own maps there.
Yeah, it should be
Yeah,
good.
we call it variable rate.
Yeah, variable rate. Depending on a task map.
The trouble is the science isn't very good on it. Like, you can make the maps, but what a lot of guys have found here, like in my area, is that the quarters that they did variable rate on were their lowest net yielding or net income fields.
Oh, really?
Because you don't know how much it's going to rain.
Yeah, that's true.
So then you fertilize less in the low yielding areas like the hilltops, and then you put more fertilizer in the bottom, and then it rains too much and it floods out the bottom, and now the hill doesn't yield, or vice versa, you know, and you never pick the right map for the right thing. And then unless you ground truth of why a particular area isn't producing, like the pH may be off, maybe it needs much more phosphates, maybe it needs sulfur, and none of the technology can determine that. So they're just assuming that an area of land doesn't produce, so don't fertilize it, when the opposite may be true.
Yeah.
So it sounds good in theory. And then there's a good soil scientist here in Canada, and he retired from the government, and now he's able to speak freely. And he says that all of that, most of that research was done in greenhouses in the US in the 40s. He said what you end up with is pretty pictures that don't mean anything.
Yep.
But I find that side of the argument kind of interesting as well.
Yeah.
Yes, we can use this technology, and the technology is there, but we don't have the science on what the rates should be.
No, that is true. You can see that it's lower or bigger, or need more or less. But
Yeah.
how many?
I guess we're like where it lodges, you put less nitrogen. You know, that sort of thing. I think that part is handy. I'm not saying it's all bunk, but we have a long way to go in terms of science and what those rates should be in the different areas. So that's all pretty interesting. But we know in our fields where it lodges. And it would be nice to be able to put just less fertilizer in the areas where it traditionally lodges. So I think it really has incredible use.
Sorry, I just brought the screen back up. I didn't mean to interrupt the conversation there.
Well, no, we could go on forever on that. How's the layout? How's the layout? Does it work?
The layout works. The one thing I noticed when you come in initially, this is 3.0 or 3.0.8 and a half. I don't know what it is. But
the one I posted. The one I
the
posted on Telegram.
Where you put the Speedo on.
Just
sorry, put what?
This, where is it here? This option, Speedo On.
You caught that.
Yeah, I don't think I ever want to touch that button.
I couldn't resist. It should say Speedo Off right now with a little scary symbol.
maybe should that be on at default?
Well, when you bring up the screen, so for example, I'll just close the program here for a minute, and then if I go, whoops, hold on a second, I'll bring that back up. I guess I have to share my screen instead.
You kids.
See now, it defaults there on the helicopter screen, right? The Speedo.
The one that's on the official release.
Yes.
Yeah, that doesn't do that anymore.
No. And then, so then if we go into options and turn Speedo on, then it of course comes on there.
Then we got two of them.
Yeah, until you start your.
Start a new field. Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't do that anymore. The Zoom screen it's not there at all anymore until you open a field.
Okay. I think with layout, what was it I was going to say? Oh, yeah. So we got AB curve here, AB line. For some reason, I wanted to go to here just because it's, to me, that looks like, oh, okay, that's AB curve, but really it's here. That's just a matter of getting used to it. I don't think that's a problem. What was
Could
the one
icon be more clear for the AB edit?
The AB edit? I think it's okay there. This one?
Also down at the bottom.
Yeah.
Like on the left side, beside U-turn, there's an AB. It's AB curve and AB line edit, like depending on which line you've accessed.
Oh, this one here. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you go to 1024,
right.
For some reason, some people use 1024.
Man, keep harping on me all the time. Are we in 1024 now? That's when we
pretty much, yeah. It's like 1,000, so it's pretty close. Oh, it's still there.
Yeah.
The menu on the right side, it provides you with snap arrows because you don't have an HD screen and you don't have those arrows at the bottom. So there still has to be a way to access them. Just put the side contour.
Beside contour, this one.
Click that. Just click that guy now.
Sorry, click it down.
Yep.
I don't know what you mean.
Oh, you can't because just hit AB so you bring up an AB line.
Oh, okay. I have to create an AB line.
Cancels. You can just use your curve that you created.
Oh, whoops, wrong. Here. Oh man, this is one thing after another. This is actually a good way to do it because then you see what happens. Sorry, I'm going to bring it bigger.
You made an AB curve, didn't you?
I did. I'm just wondering if I'm in the same field. Hold on a minute. We're going to return. Nope. We're going to start that in the field again. Test 2. That's what happened. Okay. It was this one. There it is. And then
that's a lovely field.
The
so
lovely field.
Yeah, now bring up your AB curve. Now hit edit.
Okay, hold on. We're going to steer that sucker. Hit edit. Down up here, you mean? Okay, yeah. Now I'll minimize it a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, so now if you're wondering what it looked like, and that's what it looks like.
So yeah, now you have access to your small snaps and your small moves and your big moves.
Yep. And
you can go right to completely edit the thing and save it. I couldn't figure out a way, a different way to do this. I think like that stays up, so that part's pretty nice. But like if you turn off the Batman panel, then I think that works for 1024, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep.
It's not a lot of pixels. There isn't a lot of real estate there.
No.
Like 1366, I think, what was it, like 70% of the people use 1366?
I think so. I think it was somewhere around there.
It works really well for that. What do you think of the floating U-turn buttons?
I think what I miss about this is I want this button on the right side and then this one on the left side of where you're driving, but I don't know why I want that. Because otherwise it shows up, I better drive into the field here in a minute and then we can see it.
Because the one button does, the one on the, see, I figured that the manual you hardly ever use.
Right, right.
So it's the U-turn one that's certainly more used. And so have it. And now you don't need that reverse direction because you can just hit that same button now.
Yeah, you're right.
To separate the manual function from the automatic function made the programming so much easier. I must have deleted 500 lines of code just by adding, well, I never even added a button, but just separating manual from auto because the original buttons used to do both.
Yeah, so because now if I turn U-turn on, then we have that line comes up here. So I should get over. Okay, I'll just hit U-turn. We'll move over one. And we'll go a little faster.
That's a pain that outer section turns off and you have to hit manual. But it's outside the line, so there's no debate.
So now if I turn U-turn back on, oh, there it comes.
So now you can click that directly and go the other way.
This one?
Yeah.
Right. Except now if I hit this one, right, we U-turn early.
Yep.
That's okay. Yeah.
So go ahead, hit that.
This one?
Manual. You see U-turn turns off now.
Oh yeah. Yep. There we go.
Which is kind of what it should do.
So now I guess the next question, we only got a few more minutes here before it's been an hour. If we go, if we wanted to say even out in the headland when the sections turn on and off with the relays, how would we do that? That's too tricky now, isn't it, with our U-turn relays? Like if
I need to add headland back in.
Okay, that's what we'd have to do then, that it just automatically, because here you can't really, you can play around with it where you get it close, but you can't really get there.
No. And then Richard stopped using U-turn as a headland. Then I can take that function out right away. Remember the original headland use? And it turned sections off and on? The tricky part was when you have a field like this, you never knew when you were inside or when you were actually turning and when you were leaving and when you could reset. It was so hard. And now with the U-turn function, I know exactly when I'm turning around. And then all the headland has to do is turn the sections off and on, instead of also having to determine where the tractor is.
Yep.
So, okay, just stop right there. Okay, suppose that the headland line is basically lines up with the right side of the tool.
The headland, yeah, okay, if it's here.
Okay, no, that's the U-turn. Imagine a line, yeah, there. Now move to the outside, there. Now imagine if there was another line, the headland line, that looked like the U-turn line, except its distance from the boundary was there. The same way I can detect when we drive outside of the boundary, you know how the sections turn off? I can do that on the headland line, so that the sections will just turn off, and you don't have to start anything. As soon as the tool is completely outside the headland, it turns off. Kind of opposite to what the boundary does.
Yeah.
The trick previously with headland and not having the U-turn is there were always those edge cases where you didn't know where the tractor was in the U-turn loop. But now that is solid. I rarely ever find U-turn messing up. So we know where the tractor is. We know what direction the tractor is. We know like when it's I'm getting feedback. We know when it's turning, we know when it's leaving, we know when it's entering. So we can kind of go back to the old U-turn with using a headland and the new U-turn code.
Yeah,
I just want to say it's coming. That's my next project, is to work on that headland thing.
Should be less than a day.
For a poorly functioning.
Name of overlap detection. So.
But I have all the code. All the code is just commented out. Well, not all of it, but most of the code is commented out, and it's exactly the same line as the geofence and the U-turn and the boundary. Like it's the same cookie recipe, except that it's going to be a different color.
Yeah.
Cool. So that's coming.
Awesome.
See how that purple line starts getting closer to the reference line because it's a sharp angle.
Yeah, that's an extreme instance because it's a curve, right? But
yeah, so I think that that'll be a really big step forward as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you thought about driving backwards?
Did you watch that video, Richard, where I'm driving backwards down the road?
Yeah, I see it.
I just about drove over that guy in the truck. And I'm looking at the computer, looking for it. I look back, okay, there's nobody there, and I start fiddling on the computer. I turn around again, and there's a truck. Backed over the guy. He had these big eyes. These tractor duals are coming at him in reverse. You got to have dual antenna, and you have, and then you can detect whether or not you're going forwards or backwards.
Yeah, or a really, really good, expensive compass, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's difficult thing.
That's agopengps version 4.
No, almost there. 3.08.
The other thing agopengps needs is to be able to save all of the settings.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's gotten behind. Because as soon as I make a change in the setting stuff, then equipment isn't compatible, or old files aren't compatible.
Yeah.
And that's a huge pain in the neck. That's why I've been limiting version numbers.
Yeah, I understand that, absolutely.
That's but it needs to be fixed. You need to save all the settings, because there's a lot of settings. Like a lot of settings now.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other thing, like, and Andreas was, he's right on. You should be able to set up the Arduino from within agopengps. You shouldn't have to edit a text file in the Arduino code to set up your Arduino.
Cool.
I should just be able to send that, and then it's stored on EEPROM. You know, every time you make a change in agopengps now, it, like on that steer setting screen that Gilbert up, it goes and it sends it off to the Arduino. So it's just another form, like this form that says, you know, make it the opposite wheel angle sensor. Is it leaning the wrong way? You know, uncheck the box. Now it leans the other way. And it should be able to, like, graphically be able to modify the steering module within a window in agopengps. I think that would be a real step up too. Wouldn't it, Andreas?
Yes, yes, it would.
You're so agreeable.
So, sorry, I don't have time much today.
Ich muss Deutsch sprechen.
Ja, das wäre vielleicht einfacher.
Then no one else will understand. Oh,
maybe Richard.
Yeah.
So is the layout good? I'm going to come back to that question. Is it good enough? I mean, it can always be different, but is it any better? Is it? I think if we can keep. Let me back up. Wilbert, how should that AB edit button look? What should it look like?
This one here?
Should it be the pencil thing, like at the bottom?
That makes more sense to me, because although here you can tell that, like, there's the curve line, and there's the straight line.
Yeah.
So it looks like you're, you know, and it's a setting, the gear icon, which is good, but I think this might almost be a better icon for that if we add a little squiggle to it. Like, if they're doing the same thing,
yeah,
it just feels like we have too much duplication, right? So is this button the same as this button, kind of thing?
Well, see, the one at the bottom saves pushing the button that you're on now, and then
Yeah.
Like it's a quick way to get to that A/B edit. I'm pretty proud of that A/B edit form because you can literally edit everything.
Yeah, I think you need. I think you don't need. You only need the A/B edit button instead of the also the arrows on the right side below, and the extra flip out menu. Just the A/B edit button should be, I think, enough to have it.
Can you bring up the A/B edit screen, Wilbert?
This one here.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I guess you can do it all there.
Yeah, I think that should be enough, and that should be the only place to edit it.
Edit.
Edit it.
Edit it. Okay, that makes sense. Because if they're at the bottom already.
Yeah, on the right bottom, but you mean?
But then you have no way to save it. That's the tricky part.
Oh.
If you press the green enter button, then it should be saved, right?
Yeah, but then what do you? So then the snap or the move, the A/B line buttons at the bottom, they can just be temporary move.
Oh, here, these ones.
Why should you temporarily move the A/B line?
Suppose you're doing a plot. Suppose you are going around a slough. Suppose you. We actually use that a lot just to temporarily move the line. I don't know.
Maybe you should make an extra button in the A/B edit line where you just can set enter, and then it should be remembered, or just say temporary, and
like the A/B line, A/B smoothing does.
Yeah.
Here's that one.
Something like that, maybe.
Man, I can't remember where. I'm still getting used to the new layout, so it's tricky for me to find it all quick.
Me too.
How is A/B smooth? Where's that one again? Is that here? Oh yeah, here.
Yeah. Smooth A/B. Just click that. And then it's like for now and to file, save to file.
That same idea.
That's not very clear either. Is that clear enough?
Just delete the arrow on the floppy disk. Or I mean the crosshair.
No, delete the crosshair.
But then it would be both the same button.
There's text. Yeah, I don't know. Should be good. Yeah, let's find a difficult icon for that. But I think that should be a good option to have a best of both worlds.
I mean, you can just, oh no, if you hit cancel on the A/B edit, then it returns to where it was.
Okay, yes. So if I go A/B edit, as in this one. Oh no, that's an A/B line.
Now change your line. Go up in there and change the reference line somewhere else. Yeah, move it over.
Okay, and then I hit enter.
Now it's be saved.
Did you hit save or cancel?
I hit, oh shoot, this one. Sorry, I hit this button.
Yeah, okay, move it again. Move it like a bunch over.
Like that?
Hey, where'd the reference line go?
Oh, that's what I'm moving, sorry.
Oh, okay, now hit cancel. Or no, move it out of the way, like move it different than it was.
Oh, okay, hold on, move it way over here. How about that?
Okay, now hit the cancel, the red X.
And then it
that
starts.
returns it back to where it was.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I guess technically we need a third button.
Oh no.
I know. Or just don't worry about it.
I think, yeah, I don't know. And as far as layout,
I'm glad I have you guys here to suffer my thought process with this, because it's like, oh shit, what do you do?
Yeah. Yeah, but I think if you just have that edit A/B line or A/B curve,
good enough.
It's good enough, and then just delete all the other menus, arrows, everything. Like
right.
where your mouse is now, and just have that button. And maybe
get rid of it on the right. Get rid of it completely on the right side.
Just maybe leave. Yeah, just remove that one. This whole menu. And place that AB edit button where your mouse is now.
Yep.
And maybe leave the set line to your tractor above your mouse.
Yeah.
How do you call it?
Like the snap. That's a handy one.
That one. Just leave it there. That should be handy.
Yeah. But
I think then deleting all the other arrow thing should be a little bit less complicated.
I agree.
The other thing I think with this, the layout, I mean, you can change it as you want, but the ones I would use the most would be snap, then maybe like an AB, like these ones. So I feel like if snap, this 6 1/2 of it doesn't have another, but if you move snap over here, and then if we can almost pull one of these ones off. Actually, no, I use these ones a lot.
Maybe the tram should go where the and then move everything down. Move the AB curve, contour, and AB down one box.
Yeah, like if this was AB line, contour, AB curve, snap, and then so the tram line just gets kind of bumped over here, and everything shuffles up and over, kind of like those little puzzle games.
You really only use the tram line once.
Right.
Is the tram menu good? Just bring up click that. Does the menu work? Does that form work?
I tested out and
is it intuitive?
I'd say it's worked fine. But I still have to figure out about that offset thing and set the boundary outside the field of the reference outside of your boundary and everything else. But yeah, it will make sense.
Nice to be able to move the field around with those arrow buttons.
Yeah, that's very good.
And zoom in on what you want.
Could it be a good option too if you open the edit tram, then you just have a plop directly an overview?
Oh, like have this helicopter thing, or like this overview. So if I even
have that, I had tram. The tram originally was written in like the AB touch lines. I originally had that, and then I thought, well, shoot, why not just use what's there? Because this way,
but
it's non-modal, meaning you're not locked into that window. You can do anything you want here now.
Yeah, that's fine. That's very fine. But I mean more a zoom overview function, like you have on the left down in the corner.
But you can just hit extents down at the bottom there. That one. Yeah. Hit it again.
Yeah, it does.
So it's already there. But now you want to be able to zoom in and make sure that that line is dead on the boundary.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's also true.
You got to move the thing up, use the up arrow. Now zoom in on that line.
Yeah.
That's the most, see, and that's why I was asking, like in the AB creation, should it default to 0? So that line is always made on the boundary.
Yeah, I understand that. I understand what you mean.
Now you don't have to go back and put it back on the boundary and then move it.
Yeah. So if we went here, if we could just close this, and if I went to this button, for example, like when you click here, or let's just make an AB line. Boom, boom. And we'll use that one.
Like that tool width at the top, that should say 0.
Oh. This tool width here, yeah.
Yeah, just delete your curve line for a sec. Now at tool width, put 0. 0. Okay, now make that same AB curve line again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, that was cool. You made both lines at once. Oh no, the other line was there. Sorry, never mind.
Yeah.
Brain fart. So now go back to your tram.
Okay. I'll zoom out a little bit here. Oops. Oh, I'm gonna flip my, no, too far.
Got to flip your AB too.
There we go. So now 1, 2, 3.
That's a handy freaking button.
Oh, I like that a lot.
There's a lot of handy buttons in this thing. Yeah. So now you're dead on. Now all you got to do is go click half width.
Half width here.
Yeah. Now click that to the left.
Left.
Yep. There. Now you're set up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I understand. Really good.
That default is good. I like that.
So we'll default that to 0.
The other defaults I thought too were once you set up your steering, where is that one here? Whoops. We can almost set these ahead of time right now. Like those are the defaults, but I think even with your steer motor, we could almost like with the PCB board, we can almost default these to like 18, 13, whatever kind of works.
Does that work on everybody's tractor?
I think it almost does now. If we're going with the PCB.
I suppose. And the same motor.
Yep.
If you're using a fidget motor.
At least it would be close, right? Like this would not be the default setting. I don't know, with hydraulic valves, it might be different, but.
Yeah, they're absolutely different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I put them low enough so that if somebody had a wild motor that
it's not gonna
yeah kill themselves.
Yeah.
That it just barely turns.
Yeah.
Be the safe way. But people don't need that because you're not supposed to use it in the real world.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Just thought my lawyer asked me that again. When you install agopengps, there should be a screen coming up saying that you will not use it on the road or field or off road, and that is it's an example of programming only and is not to be used on any piece of equipment. And you should check OK.
Yeah, to cover yourself in.
Try to anyway.
One thing I noticed on the installer, when you use the installer, it takes a really long time. It just says, please wait, please wait, please wait, and you don't think anything's happening. And then it requests the permissions, you know, like we think you're good. And then
user account control. You mean the user account control?
Yeah, but that takes a long time before that's enabled. That's one thing I noticed, that it's not a quick download.
That's all Bill Gates' fault. There's nothing I can do about that.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Not the user account control part. It was just the speed. And I don't think that's the computer. But.
No, that is a Windows feature.
Okay. Like I'm just trying to think if I went to see if I can find my.
But the installer is nice. You can install, you can uninstall, you can. I also put a agopengps support folder on the desktop that includes the PCB and the Arduino code. So you have everything. So you don't need to download the GitHub source code to get the support files.
And that's very good if someone deletes your PCB files.
That was another good idea by Andreas to include that installer. It doesn't make the installer much bigger, but it's sure handy.
Yeah, that's a good one. If someone deletes your INO from your GitHub, then you always have the installer.
Yeah, Andreas, what happened there? Are you still there, Andreas?
Might be gone.
Oh, his video off.
He's online. But.
Good time to leave, Andreas.
going to show this. I printed off these boxes before for the RG Simple boards.
Great.
They work good, except if you look on that side, if you have the long range module on top, so this is just a blank board, fits in there nice and snug. But if you have the long range module on, then you have to cut out the, I don't know if you can see that there.
Yep.
Versus this one. So it doesn't fit through, it just won't go in the box. So if you're printing off these boxes and you're using a long range module, it won't work. Just a heads up to anybody who's thinking about printing off one of these boxes.
Do you receive your corrections by a long range system?
Oh yeah, long range. Yeah, I just have a base station and a rover, so that's why I have 2 boxes.
Yeah, I understand, but you don't use Ntrip.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, not yet anyway. I haven't.
No,
don't have a need for it.
Yeah, I understand that it's just a standalone machine then, so it's very good. I use an old PC and an old laptop, or an old laptop, and throw it in the closet and turn it on and let's do this magic thing, and then use the Ntrip function.
The challenge in Canada is it costs about $86 or 86 pounds per kilobyte on data. Data is very expensive here in Canada.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah. I also tested out my base station with my neighbor with this commercial egg leader system, and he can also use it.
Cool.
So that's very cool. And he pays $500 a month, a year for his for a commercial correction service, and I pay nothing.
Your neighbor's gonna hate you.
I love it.
Well, gentlemen, I think we better wrap it up here. And thanks for joining us and the change of time and everything too. And I'll try and be a little bit clearer and post it a little better next time when we switch times and stuff. But I think about 2 weeks brings us to around Christmas time, so that'd be a little dicey. Maybe after Christmas will be the next meeting. So.
And I'll make those changes in the GUI and try to get headlands in for a Christmas present.
Yeah, maybe version 4 for.
I really appreciate the feedback, because to try to do this, I mean, stuff I don't see and stuff that just completely bypasses me. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to, that second set of eyes, third set of eyes, fourth set of eyes. That's so important and so critical, and that's what's made the system great is your guys' input. And again, I really appreciate that.
All right, we appreciate you, Brian. Thanks very much.
Thanks. Yeah. We all win. Farmers helping farmers. I mean, that's the key phrase, and it just works.
Yeah, great.
All right.
Take care, you guys.
See you guys. Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.